Geoffrey Hinton, who has somehow claimed the title Godfather of AI, he's written, what is actually going to happen is rich people are going to use AI to replace workers. It's going to create massive unemployment and a huge rise in profits. It will make a few people much richer and most people poorer. Good morning. Welcome to AI with Kyle, and I'm going to be bringing you the daily AI news and updates, what's been going on in the world of artificial intelligence, giving some commentary on my particular opinions and thoughts, and also taking questions from the audience who are over on TikTok, YouTube, X, and various different places. Just add your questions right now and I'll be able to swing back to them and answer them during the show. Before I get really kicked off, I wanted to give a shout out to myself because I'm so modest like that. I just appeared on the AI for the Rest of Us podcast. So you can find it on Spotify, on, I assume, iTunes, and also the video version on YouTube. So if you need to watch more of me for whatever reason, there is a version with me being interviewed by the AI with the Rest of Us podcast. It's a really interesting chat, just giving my kind of thoughts about where we're going with artificial intelligence, what we should be using it for, what we shouldn't be using it for, talking about my eyebrows, which I haven't smoothed down and I absolutely need to, because they went viral on TikTok once, so I tell the story about that. But just a lovely conversation with a couple of great guys. Also, along that note, if you are in the UK, or even if you're not and you want to travel, even better, there is a conference on the 15th and 16th of October. So about 5 weeks from now, a conference, the AI for the Rest of Us, conference in London. I'm going to be one of the speakers. There are many fantastic speakers, so do not come for me, come for the other people. That's why I'm going personally. Make sure you check it out. And you can also get a 25% off discount if you use the code LIVE25. They have not sponsored me, they're not asking me to promote this, but I will be there. So if you want to meet, do come along, and I think it's going to be a really, really cool conference as well. So that is 15th and 16th of October in London, and I think it's I was about to say a 3-day conference, but it obviously isn't because it's the 15th and 16th, as I just said. So a 2-day conference in London. I think it's going to be really exciting, and I'm very excited to be there. Again, not sponsored, but come, it'll be fun. Cool, let's hop into the news. Now, we've had a bunch of interesting stories over the last few days. I'm going to talk about, got a few with Anthropic. We've got the hunger strikes. Yeah, let's talk about the hunger strikes because that's an interesting twist, I would say. So right now, and I haven't been able to gauge or find out whether it's still happening, but as of yesterday, there were 2 hunger strikes going on. One against Anthropic and one against Google DeepMind. Now, the cause or the reason for these strikes are, I can pull it up, here we go. My name is Michael Trazzi. I'm outside the offices of AI company Google DeepMind right now because we are in an emergency. I'm here to support Guido Rickstader, who is also on hunger strike in front of the office of the AI company Anthropic. DeepMind, Anthropic, and other AI companies are racing to create ever more powerful AI systems. Experts are warning that this race to ever more powerful artificial general intelligence, AGI, puts our lives and well-being at risk, as well as the lives and well-being of our loved ones. I am calling on DeepMind's management, directors, employees to do everything in their power to stop the race to ever more powerful general artificial intelligence, which threatens human extinction. More concretely, I ask Demis Hassabis to publicly state that DeepMind will halt the development of frontier AI models if all the other major AI companies agree to do so. That's the protest that's happening right now in London. There is also one outside of Anthropic, I believe in San Francisco. Yeah, I must be. And yeah, you've probably seen these online. The first post from Michael, or Michael, I'm sorry if I'm saying it wrong, Michael, got 1 million views, 1.1 million views, so serious amount of coverage on Twitter. Day 2, which would have been Saturday, got 21,000, so it went down by 50 times. And then day 3, which was yesterday, Sunday, only got 2,000, so it went down by a factor of 10. They're now moving into presumably day 4. He hasn't posted yet today, and I think the public interest in it has dropped off precipitously. I do wonder why they protested over the weekend. If you're going to protest an office, it's generally a good idea to protest it when the people are there rather than sitting outside of a vacant office building. So that seems like a very odd choice. It's also, for those of you who are not in London, it's also, we have a tube strike right now. So a lot of people are working from home. There's a lot less foot traffic at the moment because getting to work is a lot more difficult because there are no tubes, there's no metro or subway at the moment. If he is sitting there Monday morning, 9:30 a.m. here in London, there's going to just be less people around. It's going to be less visible. Maybe Google DeepMind is going to have less people at the office today. It just seems like an odd timing for this. The other thing, and this has been pointed out by a lot of people, is if you are going to do a hunger strike, if you're going to demonstrate against an AI company, why Anthropic? Why Google DeepMind? Why are you not going up against, say, Meta or OpenAI, for example? Like Meta have some very strange, I won't even say strange, they've had some problematic ethical news in the last few months to do with child safety in particular. I guess the argument could be that Google DeepMind and Anthropic are the closest to get into AGI, but I would also throw OpenAI into that too, so I don't know why they're not being protested against. Anthropic are also the ones who take safety the most seriously. There's a running joke in the AI industry. Every time they drop a new update, everyone rushes like, oh, is it a new model? And it's like, it's another safety paper. It's Anthropic telling us how to use AI responsibly. So they tend to be I've heard them described as the Karens of the AI world, which I think's not fair, but they are the most careful and considered compared to, say, Grok or ChatGPT. These are models where they're just going for it, basically. So I think these are strange hunger strikes. There is also the wrinkle that this guy in particular, Michael, is a YouTuber. He is a content creator, which doesn't undercut the protest, but it is an additional factor we need to take into account, that he may be doing this in order to self-promote. The fact that he also jumped on and he was the second person to strike as well, maybe it's solidarity. The fact that he's, I assume, from London, from his Twitter name, which is Michael in London Trazzy, and he is protesting DeepMind, which happens to have a London office, unlike a lot of the AI companies. It all just seems a bit convenient. So yeah, he's got a YouTube channel called The Inside View, 10,000 subscribers, 100 videos. He does long form documentaries, which is really cool. Who will control AI, etc., etc. So I think interesting stuff, but we need to remember that he is also a content creator. He has a TikTok channel, he has a YouTube channel. He's someone like me. So if I went and did a hunger strike outside of Google, don't worry, I won't. I could probably use it. I've got a few extra kilos right now. That's not a good reason to do it. But we do need to take that into account as well. So I think the whole thing's a bit odd. I don't think it's going to be particularly effective for the reasons I mentioned. These are strange companies to do it with. It's a strange time to do it. And immediately public interest has just dropped off a cliff. An interesting wrinkle, but I don't think very impactful. But best of luck to them, of course. I support everyone's right to protest. I just don't think he's being listened to at the moment. I'm just hopping over to the questions, see if there's anything. Hello, good morning, everybody. I'm seeing a couple of comments were filtered already. It's Monday morning, guys. Like, it's too early in the week to be hateful. Just calm down. Who gets up on the Monday morning is like, I'm going to go and yell at people on the internet. Come on, man. Calm down. Cool. I'm not seeing any questions. Oh, High Fruit saying misplaced. Yeah. I think it's a very strange demonstration. There are a lot of problems with AI, and we need to face them head on, and we need to have discussions in good faith, and we need to work out what is going on, and we don't necessarily want corporations to be running away with this. So there are big discussions about energy, about control, about how this is going to affect the economy moving forward. These need to be had. Sitting outside of Google DeepMind, of all people, with a poorly written sandwich board over a weekend with a tube strike is not the way. Speaking of income disparities, oh, where's he gone? I've lost him. There he is, Geoffrey Hinton. So Geoffrey Hinton, who has somehow claimed the title Godfather of AI. Good for him, fantastic. And I think it's deserved, but that's every time he's brought up in the news, people are like, he's the godfather of AI, so people listen to him. So he's written an opinion piece in the Financial Times. Geoffrey, his views have shifted over the last few years, and they shift quite a lot actually, and people listen. And I think it's fine that his views shift. They should. If you are an intelligent person, you should be able to have different views, and they should change as you gather more evidence, as you see what's going on. So right now, the newest thing from Geoffrey Hinton is what is actually going to happen is rich people are going to use AI to replace workers. It's going to create massive unemployment and a huge rise in profits. It will make a few people much richer and most people poorer. That's not AI's fault. That is the capitalist system. And I agree with him on this. Right now, we have less than 10 companies who are pushing this stuff, and they will reap the rewards. And some of these are owned by individual men. So Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, for example, that's why they're pushing at this, because they know they can make a huge amount of cash from it. They're not making money now, but it's a bet that if it pays off, is going to vastly change the economic underpinnings of everything, basically. And they want to be ahead of that. So this means the rich get richer and the poor get poorer, because there will be increasing productivity in the hands of fewer people. This is also something we're seeing on the kind of grassroots lower level, which is something that we need to, so I'm just adjusting my screen. Something that we talked about on Friday about inequality and different people using AI to a different extent. It tends to be white men who are using AI the most, and they're getting the productivity gains from artificial intelligence. And then women and non-white populations are using it less, which means if we believe that artificial intelligence does lead to an increase in productivity, then certain groups are going to get that gain in productivity, and that is going to lead to higher and higher wage and wage and income gaps, basically. So we're going to see this at both the corporate market level, with some companies running away with this because they're implementing AI, and we're going to see it at the grassroots level with individual usage and individual adoption of AI differing between different groups of people. This is in part, and this is Geoffrey Hinton stuff, saying that it's going to make rich people richer and poor people poorer. This is why I do these news broadcasts. This is why I teach people how to use AI. This is why I teach people how to teach AI, because we need to make sure that this is not concentrated in the hands of the few. We need to make sure that this is a technology that is widely accessible. People know what they're doing. They're not scared of it, and they're able to enter this new phase of human history with their eyes wide open and profit from it in the same way that the ultra rich are. And so it's incredibly important, because yes, maybe AI will get rid of capitalism, but that's going to take a while. If it does, and we're talking about UBI, we're talking about various different forms of alternative government. Even if we're heading in that direction, it's going to be messy. Even if we are going to get to some kind of utopia run by artificial intelligence and we are all just lazing around eating grapes, that's going to be way in the future. So we're going to have a messy middle for the next few decades. We're going to have a messy middle right now, and we need to deal with that. Got so many tabs here. So there's some more evidence. Some water first. So there is some more evidence of a theory that I've been going on about for the last year or so. And increasingly we seem to be getting empirical evidence pointing in that direction. So my belief, which is a fairly educated belief, but it's still speculation, is that artificial intelligence isn't going to come along and just snatch up your jobs. It's not going to take Colin's job in accountancy and Colin's out on the street. It's going to be more subtle. My opinion is that it's going to erode the entry-level jobs, and we are going to see the bottom of the pyramid of every organization, of every industry, being eroded out because less people are coming in at the entry-level position. This seems to be the case. So we have a new study from Harvard. We have to be careful with studies, but the new study, which has a good number in its survey size, so 285,000 firms, data over 62 million workers. So this is what they've used. And what it's showing is junior roles are down by 23%. So less people are being hired at the lower levels of a firm, whereas senior roles are up by 14%. So there is continued hiring at the higher levels of an organization, but in the lower levels of these organizations, it's down by a quarter, because increasingly artificial intelligence can do the job of those entry-level workers. So you don't need to hire new workers. We've also seen in the US in particular, the Department of Labor and Statistics, or Department of Statistics, have posted the new job creation statistics for the last few months, and it's been going down. I think the normal number of new jobs created in the US averages around 150,000. I believe the latest figure is 22,000, and prior to that it was 30 or 40. So it is collapsing. Jobs are not being made. new jobs are not being made. So it looks like, and this is to do with coding in particular, before you'd have one senior and then he or she would have 3 juniors underneath them, so to have a team of 4. Now you can have that one senior plus Claude or an artificial intelligence, and you do not need those additional people because your seniors have a higher productivity, so you don't need to increase your headcount. And one of the most expensive things about running a business is headcount, is having people within your business. If you don't have those people, but you can reach the same level of productivity using artificial intelligence, then your profits will just skyrocket because you're not paying staff, you're not paying salaries. Yeah, sure, you've got an AI cost of a few £1,000s a month, but that is nothing compared to having salaries, having people on the books. So this seems to be what is happening. We have to be careful. So we're seeing a correlation. So we're seeing the rise of artificial intelligence being used in organizations, and we're seeing a decrease in the number of entry-level jobs. We do not necessarily know that there's a causation there. Just because we have a correlation doesn't mean there's causation. There are ways to test, and obviously the more data we get, the more we can test that. But what it looks like, at least from this study, is that there is a kind of a very tight correlation. There are still causes that it could be. Interest rates, overhiring, general economic malaise, etc. I would say, though, even if those are in play, AI is not going to help. I can't see any reason why AI would increase the number. So the directionality is probably in the favor of this study and in the favor of AI is not going to be helping create new jobs. It is going to be destroying new jobs. Of course, we still need more information, but it's looking increasingly, as we collect more evidence, that this is the direction we're going in, which makes I hang out on subreddits which go against my view, because I think that's quite a healthy thing to do. So there's one called Better Offline, which is on Reddit, and they're talking about the markets have spoken. AI won't have any noticeable impact on the economy even in 30 years. And I've got some kind of podcast. And the reason I'm flagging this one up is somebody dropped in this quote, which you can see on screen, which is, the growth of the internet will slow drastically. So talking about the internet, not AI. The growth of the internet will slow drastically. As the flaw in Metcalfe's law becomes clear, most people have nothing to say to each other. By 2005, it will become clear that the internet's impact on the economy has been no greater than the fax machine. So this was a quote which is pulled out a lot by Paul Krugman, the Nobel Prize winning economist, and he was head of the Federal Reserve? Gosh, one of the large American financial institutions. And it's a fascinating quote because this was in 1998 talking about the internet. When you are in the midst of a technological transformation, it is really hard to predict. And this is in both directions. It's very hard to predict whether this is going to change the world or be a blip. And even someone as smart as Paul Krugman, Nobel Prize winner, got it wrong. Got it terribly wrong. I'm going to read it again because it's so good. The growth of the internet will slow drastically, here's the full thing. I'll read it all. The growth of the internet will slow drastically as the flaw in Metcalfe's law, which states that the number of potential connections in a network is proportional to the square of the number of participants, becomes apparent. Most people have nothing to say to one another. By 2005 or so, it would become clear that the internet's impact on the economy has been no greater than the fax machine. So Paul Krugman was basically saying, yeah, sure, we can make more connections between all humans on Earth, but what are people going to say to each other? Like, what on earth would they be sending emails or messages to each other about? At this point, when Paul Krugman was saying this, social media did not exist. Streaming video did not exist. Live streaming, something like this, was way in the future. What happens with a general purpose technology like the internet, like electricity, like the steam engine, like computers, and now, like artificial intelligence, is we build other technologies on top of them. So back in 1998, when Paul Krugman said this and said, what are people going to say to each other on the internet? He was thinking about emails. Like, there was going to be a limit to how many emails people can send to each other. He wasn't thinking about messaging. He wasn't thinking about social media. He wasn't thinking about live streaming. He wasn't thinking about all of the other uses that we have built with the general purpose technology of the internet. So this is what we need to keep in mind with artificial intelligence, is what can we build on top of this? What are the new operating systems that we're going to have? What are the new devices like OpenAI are working on a physical device. What's that going to look like? Is it going to replace our phones? It's really hard for us, whilst we're in it, to imagine that future. That's kind of what the future's like. It's really hard. So when I see headlines like this, AI will have no noticeable impact on the economy even in 30 years, and this guy giving a podcast about it, we don't know. We don't know in either direction. And to say that you're due is intellectual dishonesty or arrogance, basically. I think we're going in a solid direction and it's going to be useful. I might be wrong. We don't know. And that's why we need to pay attention. We need to keep on top of these things. We need to approach everything with an open mind because it is unknown and it is important. Yeah, in both ways, whether you're pro or negative, listen to what the other people are saying. Read these protests right now. Read why they're protesting. It is important to know this stuff. You don't have to agree with them, but we need to see from all different angles because we, any of us, pro or anti-artificial intelligence, do not know where this is going. So we need to be very careful. So it's a bit heavy for Monday morning, but I thought important to bring up these issues. I'm going to hop over to some questions. Back in the day, disruptive techs would put peeps out of work. It can lead to sabotage of the tech. That's what the Luddites were initially. So the Luddites would destroy the weaving machines. What do you call them? Oh my gosh. Looms. So they would, a member of the bands of English workers who destroyed machinery, especially in cotton and woolen mills, they believe were threatening their jobs in the early 19th century. So they would come along and they would smash the automated looms. It is a very natural response to new technologies, and we saw it with the internet, we see it with every new technology, is that there is fear. There are people who will push back against it. There will be moral panic. We have this with video games. Oh, video games cause people to be violent. Video games cause school shootings, etc. Television was the same thing. Violent movies, etc. Gosh, the radio at some point was considered to be a menace to society. And now we have artificial intelligence, and the moral panic is coming in the form of, we've seen increasingly people who have self-harmed because of artificial intelligence. We've had things like AI psychosis. These are elements of the moral panic which are around artificial intelligence, and we will see a lot more with those, as with television, as with video games, as with all of these other forms of kind of media and technology that have caused moral panics in the past. Gosh, even Dungeons and Dragons caused a Satanist panic. As with all of these things, we need to remember there are always going to be bad stories, bad things that happen when you have a large enough technology, when you have a large enough adoption of whatever it is. ChatGPT has 700 million active users. Will there be a suicide within those 700 million within this year? Yeah. Yes, of course there will. That statistically, there's no way there's not going to be. There will be many. But when we have narratives that we're trying to form, whether it's pro or anti, we will latch onto that detail and we will create a narrative around it. And we are just as guilty of doing this in the pro-AI as the anti-AI camp is as well. So we just need to put things in the perspective of statistics and history and go a bit wider, because it's an understandable reaction that people are scared. And we cannot just diminish that. It's understandable that they want to smash the looms. It's understandable that they want to stop artificial intelligence because it is a threat to jobs and to stability, 100%. The thing is, by admitting that, by saying, oh, this is a threat, they are also admitting that it works. Because the early arguments were, oh, ChatGPT is rubbish, it will never take my job. That is starting to shift to, oh no, we need to stop this stuff now because this is a threat to mental health, or it's a threat to the economy, etc. That is a tacit admission that the technology works and is good, and it helps you in a daily basis, instead of just saying it's trash. Cool. I'm going to talk about Anthropic again. So Anthropic, they've had a busy week. Last Monday, they announced their Series F. So they raised, I think, $13 billion, and it increased their valuation to $183 billion, making them larger than Disney and Nike and Boeing and all of the American car manufacturers. It made them a huge company in terms of post-money valuation, basically overnight. By the end of the week, they'd already given away about 10%, or they're being forced to give away 10% of that raise. So they raised $13 billion, and they are now having to pay authors at least $1.5 billion. So 10% of that raise has immediately been used to cover this lawsuit. I don't know whether they'd taken that into account. Presumably, That was part of the raise. It's like we have this potential future liability. We're in a lawsuit right now. And if we lose the lawsuit, then we're going to have to pay 10% of this out. So that might have been contingent as part of the raise. Probably. It still seems like bad timing that it happened. At the beginning of the week, they raised money. At the end of the week, they lost 10% of it, or they had to pay 10% of it. So Anthropic are paying at least $3,000 for each copyrighted work that was pirated. The company downloaded unauthorized copies of books in early efforts to gather training data for its AI tools. So this is what all the models have done. So this is not just Anthropic. Anthropic are just the only ones who are paying, basically. So what all the models did early on, when they were small and scrappy, they just grabbed as much as they could from the internet. So there are websites. I can mention it. Why not? Websites like Anna's Archive, where you can download any book for free, totally. So there are, it's like the Pirate Bay, but for books, basically. So Anna's Archive was scraped by multiple AI companies. They basically pulled in every single thing from that particular website and used it in their training, because it is one of the largest data sources of published works. Now, did they have the right to do that? No. Was this a good source to pull it from? No. It's a piracy site. Like, they knew what they were doing was problematic. So what has happened is all of the companies basically went for it, including Anthropic, who, as we were saying earlier, are probably the most high-minded of all of the AI companies. All of these companies grabbed all of this data, and it was very much you don't ask for permission, you beg for forgiveness afterwards. So you go ahead, you grab the New York Times, you grab anything from Anna's Archive, you pull the whole of Wikipedia, etc., etc. And then when the New York Times comes for you, when publishers come for you, you're like, oh no, oh sorry, here, have a payout. So you pay retrospectively. And we've seen this again and again with things like Reddit. Everyone scraped Reddit initially, used it for free. Reddit came a knocking saying, hey, you can't do that, we're going to sue you. And then licensing deals were worked out. That's exactly what's happening with the New York Times right now, that deals were cut. So New York Times and Amazon and Anthropic, because they're connected, cut a deal to use the New York Times licensed material. And I'm sure we'll see something similar with the Disney Midjourney court case as well, where Midjourney ends up just paying a huge amount of money in order to get to cover their sins, but also to get access to the training data. Although in that case, Disney may be trying to make an example of Midjourney, so it's a bit different. So Anthropic has agreed to pay at least $1.5 billion to settle a lawsuit brought by a group of book authors alleging copyright infringement, an estimated $3,000 per work. In a court motion on Friday, the plaintiffs emphasised that the terms of the settlement are critical victories and that going to trial would have been an enormous risk. So it's a settlement, it didn't go to trial. According to settlement agreement, the class action will apply to approximately 500,000 works, but that number may go up once the list of pirated materials is finalised. Now, I wonder how many books. They'll probably grab more than that. For every additional work, the artificial intelligence company will pay an extra $3,000. Plaintiffs plan to deliver a final list of works to the court by October. I don't know how they're working it out. That's really interesting. I'd love to know how they are working out which ones are in the training data. So, yeah, Anthropic is not admitting any wrongdoing or liability. Today's settlement, if approved, will resolve the plaintiffs' remaining legacy claims. We remain committed to developing safe AI systems that help people and organizations extend their capabilities, advance scientific discoveries, and solve complex problems, Anthropic Deputy General Counsel Aparna Sridhar said in a statement. So they're not saying, we messed up, we broke the law. They're saying it's a payout, basically, before it goes to court. But it is a significant payout. It's not a few million, this is $1.5 billion. So here we go. Anthropic downloaded over 7 million pirated copies of books, paid nothing, and kept these pirated copies in its library, even after it decided it would not use them to train its AI. Interesting. Authors argue Anthropic should have paid for these pirated library copies. This order agrees, Allsup wrote in a summary judgment. So Anthropic saying they didn't use the books. They downloaded them but didn't use them in the training. I'm not sure about that. Because it's really hard to tell. It's really hard to prove what is in the training data, because the database, or the kind of vector storage, the database that these large language models are built on, even if we had oversight into the weights, which we don't because this is a closed model, it's not like a giant cloud folder full of PDF files. That's not what it looks like. Yes, PDF files and websites and all of this is fed in at the beginning. But then what you've fed into it, that is not kept. We don't keep a storage of that in the large language model. Instead, that is all vectorized and chunked into the large language model itself and then used for inference later. But there is not, and this is a common misconception, there is not a big directory of folders that have every single website on earth. That is not inside the model. So that makes proving that your work has been used to train is quite difficult, because it's gone through various stages, and each stage it gets more abstracted from the initial work that was put in. I'm sure there's a few tests, like if you put in the first lines of Moby Dick, for example, which is, I believe, public domain, or there's enough copies of it online that if you put in the first lines of Moby Dick, a large language model is able to predict the rest of the text, because it basically has a copy. It's still predicting, but it can do it very well because it has so many different sources of Moby Dick within its training that it basically knows the text. So even if it doesn't have a file, which is mobydick.txt, sitting inside of its database, which it does not, it still has the weights in sufficient kind of numbers to be able to recreate that text basically verbatim. Same with most Wikipedia articles as well. If you start to put in the beginning of a Wikipedia article inside of a large language model, not inside a chatbot because they have layers of guardrails, but inside the actual large language model itself, it will be able to predict the rest of the article because of the way it's been trained. That does not necessarily mean that we can prove that every single one, which books have been put inside of the initial trainings. Interesting, and good job for Anthropic for paying. I'm sorry you lost 10% of your new raise, but I'm sure that was taken into account when they did the raise. And it also is going to set a precedent for other payouts. And the fact that it's Anthropic who's one of the first ones to pay up in such a large amount is not that surprising, because they are, as we've mentioned before, they're the ones who are on the forefront of kind of responsible artificial intelligence. I think getting some kind of payment like this from Elon Musk and Grok would be very difficult. It's probably why the lawsuit was up against Anthropic. It's a better chance of a payout. I'm going to hop over to some questions. High Fruit says, where's that $3,000 going to? Will the authors be getting that money, or the publishers? First, the lawyers are going to get paid an awful lot of that, I imagine. It's the lawyers who are going to do the best in all of these lawsuits. Once the lawyers have taken their cut, then it looks like it's going to go to... It's a lawsuit brought by a group of book authors. Yeah, I'd need to see who the plaintiffs are. Because if it's just a handful of high-level authors, how are they going to set up the... Just from a logistical standpoint, working out how to route all of those payments to hundreds of thousands of US-based authors, that is a nightmare. Like, you're gonna have to hire a team to do that in and of itself, which again, that's going to erode how much. I wouldn't be that surprised if after lawyers and operational costs, maybe these authors will get less than 1,000. I wouldn't be that surprised, because it's 500,000 works. So you're going to have to set up 500,000 payments to these authors. It sounds like a logistical nightmare. It's a really good question. How are they going to pay these authors? Really good question. And are authors, like the larger authors, let's say a J.K. Rowling or whatever is in here, will she get a larger payout than somebody who self-published but their book happens to be in this training? Do they both get 3,000? I don't know. I'm not sure the answer to that, but it sounds like an absolute nightmare to organize, and best of luck to them. But I don't think there'll be much for the individual authors by the time they're finished, honestly. I'll do another shout out. I mentioned it at the beginning of the live, but I wanted to mention it again. So I'm a guest on a podcast called AI for the Rest of Us. Did not realize I'm their first ever guest, which was very nice of them. It's on YouTube, it's on Spotify, I'm blanking out, and Google Play and Apple Podcasts, I imagine. So go and check it out. It's called AI for the Rest of Us. I'm the first guest. There is also a YouTube channel, which they've just set up. And if you need to see me more, which you don't because you're already watching the live and you see me every day, then there is a version that has video. Also connected to that, I'm going to be giving a talk at the AI for the Rest of Us conference. It's going to be in October. It's about 5 weeks from now. And I'm going to be talking about giving AI trainings to businesses, and walking you through how you'd get into that. It's an hour-and-a-half long talk, and it's going to be either on the 15th or the 16th of October. I still need to work that out with Hannah, the organizer. But also there's going to be a whole range of really good speakers there, much more interesting speakers than me. So come for them, not for me, but I will also be there, and make sure you come and say hi as well. So it's called AI for the Rest of Us. It's on the 15th and 16th of October. Go and check them out anyway. They have a meetup in London, a free meetup, which is, I want to say, every second Thursday in Shoreditch, and then they have this conference, which is going to be the 15th of October as well. So make sure you check that out. And while you're on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed to my YouTube, because that's my focus at the moment, and if you're not, I'll be furious. I'm not very good at the whole subscribe and what is it? I don't even know what you meant to say. I'm not going to be the next PewDiePie, am I? Actually, PewDiePie's years ago. Next Mr. Beast. Cool. That is all of the main news articles for today. Not sure what we're going to be seeing this week. There's still talk about Gemini 3 being on its way. Oh, I've just been given access to Claude. So the Claude Chrome extension, which I think they've only given it to 1,000 people. And I'm one of them, so that's really cool. So I'm going to try that out, and I'll be able to report back on that tomorrow. Basically, it's an extension that allows you to have Claude inside of your browser, and it can help with your browser tasks. So they're going a slightly different way to Perplexity, who have a Comet browser, different way to Dia, which is the other now Atlassian-owned AI browser, and there was talk of ChatGPT launching their own browser in the future as well. Anthropic are going a different way. They're not building a whole browser, but they have built a Chrome extension. So I will be playing around with that, and I'll report back on that as well, because I've just been given access. So I'm excited about that. Awesome. Thank you, guys. I am going to hop over to the other live stream, which is building in public. I'm building a application over 30 days, 1 hour per day. I'll be moving into day 6. Yep, day 6. Building out an application that allows you to turn YouTube videos into lead magnets and to pull leads off YouTube into your business. So that's what I'm building. We have the basic functionality in play. I'm starting to add features now. And then by the end of the 30 days, the idea is I'm going to launch it. I'm going to build the sales pages, the marketing infrastructure, launch it out to my audiences, work with other influencers, etc., in order to turn it into an actual business. So it's a challenge that I'm doing over 30 days. Today is day 6. It's a live stream which is going to be on TikTok, and it's going to be on YouTube. I would recommend, if you are on TikTok, head over to YouTube. What I'm doing is I have this, you can't see it, but I have an arm so I can point my phone at the screen for TikTok, but it's not ideal. It's much better to be able to see my screen without me using a back camera over on YouTube, so you can see what I'm doing. Also, if you are building yourself, and if you're building alongside me, tell me. And tell me on the live so that I can shout you out and send, if you have like working prototype, I can send people in your direction, or we can just talk about what you're building, because I want other people building, and I want to incentivize that by helping to get you some awareness, some distribution as well, because that is the hardest part. So if you are building alongside of me, tell me, and I'll make sure that we can get some eyeballs on what you're building. Cool. As always, all of these videos, all of the news, all of the updates, plus the live streams, etc., all ends up on YouTube. Make sure you're subscribed there. It gets nicely edited. We have a fantastic new editor who's working with us. And there's going to be a newsletter, which comes out, a text version of the daily update. Comes out every single morning at 8 a.m. And that is free, link in the bio. Sign up for that. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube, and I will see you tomorrow. Cool. Thank you, guys.